Kakadosh Masechet Shekalim Daf Amud Aleph 3A1 at the top of the page, the two dots. We are going to start. We said in the first Mishnah, metaknin et haderachim et harechuvot et mikvot hamayim ve'otzim kol tzorchei rabim, which means that on the 15th of Adar, we are going to fix, besides obviously the Mikra Megillah that we spoke about in the Krachim, we said over there we're going to fix the paths, which means that we're going to start fixing the roads, right? Ve'harechuvot et mikvot hamayim and all the places of water, ve'otzim kol tzorchei rabim, and we're going to try to fix up all the things. Which the truth is, nowadays the minhag of the goyim is the same thing. They took it from us, which means in Miami, usually the winter time, right after the winter season, that's when they start coming. Why? All the tourists just left, and now they come and they start fixing all the roads. They're still in construction, right? Why? Because that's when they do it. They start fixing it towards Pesach. So the minhag, they kept the minhag. Okay, very good. Eluhen tzorchei rabim. These are the tzorchei rabim. Number one, danin dinei mamonot v'dinei nefashot. They're going to start judging life and death matters and mamonot, the monetary matters as well. Dinei makot, or also different types of floggings, right? When we're going to give makot, right? Whips. Upodin arachim v'charamim v'ekdeshot, and we are going to redeem any type of erechs or cherems or ekdesh, which means some people, they come and they say erki alai, my value will go to the Bet HaMikdash, or they're going to make a cherem. They're going to say everything that this is going to go to the Bet HaMikdash, or hekdesh, to consecrate. Either one of these things, which is the same concept, whether it's going to be the erech, which is like the value of something, not the actual item, but the value of something, or the cherem and the ekdesh, which is usually the actual item in itself. So they're going to redeem it as well during this time. Mashkinet sotah. They are going to give the sotah waters. Okay? So this is Gimel Amud Aleph at the top. Yeah? So they're going to give the sotah waters to drink. Right? This is obviously to do shalom bayit in between her and her husband. Sorfinet para, they're going to burn the para duma in order to make the mei chatat, the waters of the chatat, which is to purify people if they became tameh met, impure to a dead body, so then they would be sprinkled on the third and seventh day. Orfinet eglar ufa, they would do eglar ufa. Remember, if a person was found dead, and what happened was we don't know who killed him, right? And it's in between the two cities, so the closest city, they have to come and they have to bring an eglar ufa, that's the zikneh bedin of that city. Virotzin eved ivri, they are going to do also the eved ivri, which means they come and they take the ear of the eved ivri and they're going to pierce the ear of the eved ivri. Metanin et metzorah, they're going to also purify a metzorah, right? Also the same thing, right? Mefarkin et ha-min'al, and they're going to also take away the man'ul, sorry, mefarkin et ha-min'al, which is the man'ul mel gabe hamayim, from the water, which means they're going to take away all the locks that was on top of the different things on the water, the pits of the waters. And they're not going to put it back until after the end of kites, until the end of the summer. Okay? Until here, we're all clear? Taman taninan. We learned over there in the Mishnah. This is the Mishnah in Bavli, Moed Katan Daf Bet Amud Aleph. Mashkin bet hashlachin. We also you're allowed to come and you're allowed to put water on Chol HaMoed on the Bet HaShlachin, which is basically a field which does not get enough from irrigation from the water, from the rainwater. So therefore, you yourself, you have to actually put water in it. So you're allowed to do that. Right? And also, you're going to be mitzainin ala kavarot, which is again the same thing. You're going to start putting lime and things like that on the kavarot, so that way the kohanim know exactly where's the keved, and therefore they should not become tameh, obviously. Okay, so says the Gemara, I don't understand. Why would you have to do it on? Why would you have to do it? Why would you have to do it on Chol HaMoed if you already did it on the 15th of Adar? Right? Which means that if you already did it on the 15th of Adar, why are you doing it on Chol HaMoed? Because we just said on Chol HaMoed you're allowed to do it. But you already did it on the 15th of Adar. So says the Gemara, no, very simple. You could explain that Mishnah is talking about where even though you already did it, there came a big, huge, whether it's a waterfall or whatever it is, and then again it took it off. So therefore, whatever you were mitzayin, it basically came off, and now you have to do it again. So therefore, you're allowed to do it even on Chol HaMoed. Okay? Next, yotzin af ala kilayim. So also in the Mishnah in Moed Katan, there was written on Chol HaMoed you could go out also about kilayim. So says the Gemara, velo kvar yatzu be'adar. Again, basically we're asking the same question back and forth. If right now there's a Mishnah at the beginning of Moed Katan, there it's written what are you allowed to do during Chol HaMoed and what are you not allowed to do during Chol HaMoed. Okay. Plus, by us it's already written what are you supposed to be doing on the 15th of Adar. So if you already did all these things on the 15th of Adar, why do you have to start telling me you do it on Chol HaMoed? You already did it. So says the Gemara, Tiftor she'aita shena afila ve'en atzmachim nikarim. He says, no. What happened was you went out on the 15th of Adar. There's nothing there. So now when you're going to come and you're going to tell them, right, about, you're not supposed to do kilayim and so on and so forth, it's not halakha l'maaseh. So therefore, they don't pay attention. You understand? So therefore, what happens is, right, that's why there's no problem whatsoever. Do you know, I once heard a shiur of this about how we're always trying to do everything halakha l'maaseh. And listen to this, something incredible in psychology, which they actually brought down, just that way you should understand how the human mind works, right? They asked, how many times have you gone on a plane? How many times have you gone on a plane? I don't know, you can't even count. How many times? I don't know what, hundreds, I don't know, whatever it is. Okay, fine. Some people are more frequent flyers than others. Some people are frequent flyers even without the plane. Right? They're always living on the plane. Right? They're always, their head is their tayasim, right? They're always flying. But okay, fine. But besides that, okay, how many times did you hear, right, the safety instructions? Yeah? So people are going to tell you, okay, very good. But how many times did you actually hear it? Or how many times do you pay attention to it? None. Why not? Because you think it's never going to apply. Right? Which means that right now, but 1 second, but you heard it a million times. You've been on, every time you've gone on the plane, there were safety instructions. But did you actually pay attention? No. Why? Because you think it's not going to happen. If I would tell you right now that you're going on this plane, and chas v'shalom, whatever the case is, it's going to happen, would you pay attention or not? The answer is going to be, obviously, I know that something's going to happen. I have to be prepared. So therefore, why isn't it? Because we think that it's never going to happen. If we don't think that it's going to happen, we don't pay attention. So here, what the Gemara is telling us, you went out on the 15th of Adar, and right now it's not nikar. You're going. There's all the plants. There's nothing. So now you're going to start telling them, by the way, kilaim, and I'm going to tell you kilaim, no kilaim. Come back later. Why do you come back later? Because you come back when now you're able to do it. If you come too early to do it, so that it's not going to help, right? And therefore, you have to be much more lemaaseh. Once it's much more lemaaseh, now you could come and you could start talking about it. That's why bedikat chametz. Imagine I'm going to leave my house 6 months before, right? I'm a snowbird. Yeah, I'm going to do bedikat chametz. No, because it's nothing to do with it. You're within the month. You're already getting into preparation. You're already getting into the mood, into the cycle, into the sync of Pesach. Now you have it. 30 days before. Same thing for Shabbat. 3 days before. You get into the mood. You just came out on Sunday. You're not thinking about Shabbat. Right? Sunday, Monday. When you get already to Wednesday, now you're already thinking about Shabbat. And that's the way it is with everything in life. That whenever we get more into it, right, into the sync, that's what's going to happen, that we have to actually pay attention. But I think it was a beautiful mashal, because it's true. Everyone was laughing when he said how many people actually paid attention, right, to the safety things. Nowadays, they try to do everything. They try to do cartoons. They try to do this. They try to do everything. Just so that way, you pay attention. Why? Because they know you're not paying attention. Right? Why? Because they know that you don't think anything is going to happen. So if nothing's going to happen, I'm not going to pay attention. So they have to try to do every trick in the book to try to make sure that you're going to do it. You understand? You're going to pay attention. You're going to understand what's going on. Okay? But anyway, it's very interesting. No, and it's enjoyable seeing, how much they invest just that way people should pay attention. But it was purposely done. Right? But they already know it. Fine. So says the Gemara, Minay letziyun. How do we know be'emet that you're obligated to come and to be mitzayin the kvarim? You're obligated to come and to start putting on the kvarim, right? The different signs that way people know about it. Rav Yaakov bar Bat Yaakov, Rav Racha and Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Bat Yaakov. There's a whole thing here why the Gemara is going to explain, right? Because the father was not actually fitting. So since the father was not fitting, they always used to just say Bat Yaakov. They would never say the father's name. Hashem Rav Chunya, the Brat Chavrin, from Brat Chavrin, that's a place. Rabbi Yosef Omre. Rabbi Yosef said in the name of Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, in the name of Rabbi Chunya Divrat Chavrin, Rabbi Chizkiya Rabbi Uziel Bered Rabbi Chunya Divet Cholim Beshem Rabbi Chunya Divet Bet Cholim. So each one is in different names. It says in the Torah by the Metzorah V'tameh Tameh Yikra. What does that mean? V'tameh Tameh Yikra? Kedei she'teh tuma korea lecha befiha ve'omer lecha perosh. The tuma has to be so clear to you that it has to be screaming at you. Separate, right? Keep away, stay away. That's a concept. So the same thing, whenever we're talking about the tameh yikra, the tameh has to be calling out to you that you know where the tumah is, right? And therefore you have to actually come and signal it out and show everyone to be careful. Rabbi Ila b'shem Rabbi Shimon bar Nachman, Rabbi Ila name Rabbi Shimon bar Nachman says, ve'avru ha'ovrim ba'aretz v'ra'atz etzem adam uvana etzlo tziyun. So there's a pasuk. The pasuk in Yechezkel says that until they went and they are going to bury all the people, this is in the Geamon Agog, so they're written that they're going to see an etzem adam, so they have to build by it at tziyun. Which here you see that the tziyun, the tomb, that's where you have to build by it, even when you have the bones of the human being. Okay? Etzem, right? So when it says etzem, which is a bone, from here we learn you have to be mitzayin on the bones. Adam, so therefore it's not only on the bones. Even if you just have the spinal cord and the gulgola, which is the skull, also uvana, even you would be mitzayin on top of an even, which is kavua in a place of a kever, which means that if they put a stone, a boulder, on top of a kever, and you already know there's a kever there, so you have to actually come, and the fact that it says ubana, you have to be boneh a binyan, which means boneh, bana, even. It's like a stone. Okay, so therefore on each one, it's coming to teach you something. Im omer at al gabe even tlusha fi olechet umetamem b'makom acher. So he says, if you're going to come and it's going to be on an even tlusha, which is a stone which is movable, which is kind of, you could start moving, transporting it from one place to another. So then it's going to be mitgalgel somewhere else, and it's going to be mitameh somewhere else, right? So therefore it says that I would have thought to say that it's going to be mitgalgel sham. So therefore it says, so you're going to come and you're going to bring it to, you're going to think it's tameh, and it's really not tameh because the stone rolled over, right? And then it's going to be a problem. So therefore you have to make sure that the stone is mechubar. Right, that's why all the tombstones are mechubar lakarka. It can't just be stam a stone, a little stone on top of that's it. Because if it rolls away, it's going to become a problem. Somebody will come, eat truma there, burn it, and it was really truma teora. Why? There was nothing there. The stone rolled, right? So therefore, it has to be something fixed into the ground. Okay. It's slow. What does it mean? It's slow tziyun. Limkom tahara. So it comes to teach you that the tziyun should not be on the kever mamash, but rather in a place which is tahor samuch kever. Because if it's mamash on the kever, people won't realize until it's already there. So therefore, it has to be a little bit further away, so that way people would understand. They say, they have to stay away. Tziyun, right? Mikan tziyun, and the word tziyun, because that's what etzlo was. Etzlo is by it, not on top of it mamash. And tziyun is mikan tziyun. They have to make a tziyun, which means that there's a chobah letzayin lechelkei hamet, which is mitamem be'ohel. Right, that means we have to actually come and signal that the different parts of the dead body is going to be mitameh as well. Okay, fine. Matzah even achat metzuyenet af al pi she'en mekaymin ken. So it says over here like this: a person comes and he puts a stone, right, and he puts it with seed, with lime. So even though they're not going to be mekayim, right, the tziyunei kvarim, because they're not going to be mitzayin on the mekom kever mamash, just like we said above. But rather, we have to distance it a little bit. So therefore, what's going to happen is ma'ahil alea tameh. So if somebody is going to come and they're going to be ma'ahil on it, so then it's going to be tameh. Ani omer met taya natun tachtea, but I'm going to say that there was a met underneath it. But what happens if there's going to be two different stones on it? Tahor, then it's going to be tahor, right? Ubenehen tameh, and between it, which means if somebody's going to be ma'ahil, right, on between the two stones is going to be tameh. Okay, so basically here what we're talking about is what happens if a person is going to do ma'ahil. Remember, is ohel, which means you're going in the same vicinity, and then there's like the tent on top of you. Okay, so now says the Gemara as follows, right? If right now there was simanei charisha between the two stones, so therefore, right, right, so therefore, what happens if you have simanei charisha in between, which means you plowed in between the two stones? So it says over here, haren ki yechidot. So then each one is considered a separate stone, and benehen tahor, when between them is going to be pure. But al gabehen, on top of each of the stones, is going to be tameh. Because beforehand we said that in between the two stones is going to be tameh. But now if you plowed in between the two stones, it shows that obviously there was no dead body there. So therefore, in between the two stones is going to be pure, but on top of the two stones is going to be impure. Tani, and we also learned you're not going to do it on flesh, right? That was buried without atzamot. It has to be with atzamot, with bones, not with flesh. Shemani tekel basar, but then what's going to happen is that maybe the flesh is going to disintegrate, and if it's not going to have a kazait of basar, it's not going to be mitameh. Rabbi Yusta bar Shunem ba kume Rabbi Mana. So Rabbi Yusta, the son of Shunem, right? You see that in Aramit, the name was always Bar, right? And that was one of the reasons for our minhag that we always say, right? Haki Bar, yeah, Yitzchak, Warta Bar Chaim. It's always Bar, it's always Bar. So Rabbi Yusta bar Shunem, he comes and he asks the question in front of Rabbi Mana. Lo nimtza metameh ta'arot mafreya? Are you not going to come and you're not going to be metameh the ta'arot retroactively? Which means, because as long as there was not ikul de basar, if you're not going to be mitzayin, you didn't know that right now there was something there, so if it's going to be a problem. Amalei, so he comes and he says, mutav shitkalkelu bo l'sha'a velo yitkalkelu bo l'olam. It's better that even for one moment they should be over an isur, but not that forever they should be over an isur. Which means if they're going to come and put a sign on it, so forever they're going to be over an isur because the meat, the flesh, was disintegrated within whatever it is. There's not going to be a kazait anymore. And now people are going to continue coming and continue prohibiting it. But chaval, right? So therefore, it's better that right now, even if right now they're going to come to the nisur, it's better that they do it now for a few, whatever it is, than to do it forever. So that's what he says. Okay? Mishnah, this is the next Mishnah, halacha bet. Okay, remember that in the Yerushalmi, it's prakim and then halachot. So every Mishnah is like a new halacha. So this is halacha bet. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, but at the beginning, they used to come and they used to take out the kilaim and throw it in front of them. which means that they used to actually take it out, uproot it, right? But once there was too many people that they were over there, what would they do? They used to throw it on the paths. So then what happened? So then afterwards they went and they made hefker, the entire sedeh. But it means like this. At the beginning, they went and they said, okay, you guys are making kilayim, we uproot it. But then afterwards, sometimes it was actually even better, and they didn't care, and they were doing it. So they said, okay, fine. You want to take that measure? No problem. The entire field becomes hefker if you do kilayim. Now people are much more careful because they don't want their entire field to be becoming hefker. So then they would actually change it. Okay? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda. Tanim, we learned Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, so at the beginning they used to uproot it and they used to throw it in front of them. But now they were happy, right? Was you did their job. So the number one, they were coming and you were cleaning up their field, right? And number two, right? After they already uprooted it, they would benefit from it, right? So therefore, what happened? So then all of a sudden, everyone started doing it, and then they were happy. It's like a person comes and you're going to give them a type of a ticket. That the ticket is going to be even better. You understand? So therefore, they're happy. Once it was right? They used to come and they used to throw it on the path. So way people would trample upon it. Now people are trembling and they can't now benefit from it. And still they were still sameach that the menachshim sadotem, they used to come and they used to fertilize their fields. They used to uproot it and then it would be good for them. So he says, therefore they instituted so therefore they went and they instituted that the entire field was going to become ownerless. Says the Gemara, how do we know that hefker bedin hefker? Hefker bedin and hefker means that how do we know that if the betting come and they make my field hefker, that it becomes hefker? How could it be? Who gave them the rights that all of a sudden they're going to come to my field and they're going to say, you know what, it's ownerless? Well, ownerless. I don't say it's ownerless, but no, they do it and it's hefker. How do they know that? So it says in the pasuk, לשלושת הימים, כעצת השרים וכל אשר לא יבוא, anybody that's not going to come for the 3 days, כעצת השרים וזקנים יחורם, כל רכושו, it's going to become הפקר. והוא ייבדל מקהל הגולן, he's going to be, that means according to Ezra and his betin, they had the koach to be mafkid, all a person's property, if somebody goes against their wills. So minayin shayu pturim min al-nasrot. So how do we know that a person does this, that became patur from the concept of masrot, which means hefker is patur from maaser? How do we know that hefker is going to be patur from maaser? Rabbi Yonatan bered Rabbi Yitzchak bar Acha shama minada. He heard it from here. Em abrin et hashana lo b'shvit velo b'motzei shvit. V'imibruha. So you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to make an extra month in the year. You're not allowed to make a leap year. Not during Shavit, during the time of the Shemitah, in order that there's going to be like an extra month of Yisur. Velo motzei shvit, or not a motzei shvit. V'imibruha, but if they did do it, harezo meuberet. It is going to become meuberet. Okay? V'chodesh echad shu mosif, right? And then he says, but if they did make it a leap year, it's a leap year. V'chodesh echad shu mosif, lo patur mimasrotu. Now, the extra month they added in, that instead of the Tishrei of the Motzei Shevit, it's going to become Elul of Shevit, so it's not going to be patur from Ma'asrot. So therefore, how could it be? Right? He says it's not going to be patur from Ma'aser. So it says, Nicha Shevit, I understand Shevit, why we don't want to make it a leap year. That makes sense, because we don't want the Yisur to be, imagine right now you're making an Yisur an extra month. It's like a Yashan, right? When it becomes a month of a leap year, it makes it much more difficult, because now instead of having until Pesach, you have an extra month of worrying about Yashan. So it makes it more difficult. So imagine that with not Yashan, but that you're not allowed to do anything, right? Mamash, Shavit, Shemitah, you're not allowed to plant, you're not allowed. So it makes it much more difficult. So don't make it into a leap year. It makes sense. But he says, Motzei Shavit mai. Motzei Shavit why? So Amar Rabbi Yabun says Rabbi Yabun, Shelo lerabot et Yisur Chadash. That's what we just mentioned. We don't want the Yisur of Chadash, which means that we don't want the Yisur of Chadash for such a long time because there's an extra month. So because of that, that's why he says that we don't want to do it also Motzei Shavit. Rabbi Zera b'shem Rabbi Lazar, Hada datamar, that's what he says. Ad shelo itir Rabbi le'avir yerek michutz haaretz Eretz Yisrael, and he didn't permit to bring vegetables from chutz haaretz Eretz Yisrael. Aval mishitir Rabbi le'avir yerek michutz haaretz Eretz Yisrael, shvit shel shash shnei hashavua. So then it becomes shavit, becomes like anything else, which means that once upon a time they weren't able to bring vegetables from outside. So if they weren't able to bring vegetables outside, it's a big problem. But nowadays, that anyway you're allowed to bring vegetables outside. Now you could do it on Shemitah. You could make a leap year, and there's no problem whatsoever. So I just answered the question: why nowadays you are allowed to do that? Okay, Amar Abimana says Abimana. That's what you say, but that's what it means. At the beginning, when the years were in the proper time. But nowadays, that it's not like the proper times, right? The Motzei Shavit is exact same like other years as well. Tani shel bet Rav Gamliel ibrua. The Motzei Shavit miyad. So they actually taught that the academy of Rav Gamliel, they actually made it into a leap year on Motzei Shavit immediately. So Amar Biyavun says Biyavun, en minada, don't bring a raya from there. Let at shama mina klum. Right? You can't learn anything from there, but it says Shemona Chodesh Aviv. You always have to remember that spring is always Pesach. Because when it says Shemona Chodesh Aviv, spring is always Pesach. That's why, by the way, the difference between the Arabs and the Jews. Yeah? The Jews, how do we go? Lunar cycle, right? The lunar calendar. How do the Arabs go? Lunar. So why is it that they have different cycles than we do? So the answer is very simple. Meaning the Arabs also go by
lunar. Also lunar, but they don't have leap year. That's why it keeps changing.
Very good. Which means like this. For us, we always have to make the leap year to always make sure that Pesach falls out in Aviv, in spring. They don't have that. So therefore, if they're always going to be 11 days behind, every single year, 11 days behind. So sometimes Ramadan will come out in summer, sometimes it will come out in winter, sometimes in spring, and sometimes in fall. Because every single year, it's 11 days behind. So that's what they're doing. For us, since we hold that Shemona Chodesh Aviv, we have to be shomen that it's always going to be in Aviv. So every single 3 years, we're going to have to come and make it back into leap year, because after 3 years, you lost 11 times 3, 33 days. So you come and you make a leap year, you gain that month back, and then you continue going, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Second Adar.
Exactly, that's the second Adar. That's a leap year. Okay, so that's what we learned. V'haida amar da, right? So if so, right, why didn't the Tana just say this? So the Gemara says, Gadish shelo lukat tachtav, right? Because really, be'emet, if so then why are we going to say that it's going to be the hefker of bedin, that it's going to be patur from masrot? So he says, because it's like a gadish, it's like a pile of grain which was reaped, right? That is going to be in a certain place, and they didn't take away from the anim. So therefore, it says kol anogo bad. It's anything which is touching on the land. Harei shel anim. They belong to the poor people. The Amar Rabbi Ami, and says Rabbi Ami, right? Gimel Amud Bet. B'Shem Rabbi Shimon Lakish, and name Rabbi Shimon Lakish. The Bet Shammai. This Mishnah is in accordance to Bet Shammai that they hold hefker anim is also hefker. The Bet Hillel, but if it's going to go according to Bet Hillel, anim ochlim u'masrin. The anim, they are able to eat it, but they have to give the maaser. Okay, V'amar Rabbi Yosef, says Rabbi Yosef, Shamanu hu patur maaser l'dvei hakol mishum knasa. So he says, but really be'emet leket, which is the Rabbanan, right, is going to be patur from maaser according to everybody, even according to Bet Hillel, because of the knas, which means that since it was a knas, the chachamim came and they made a hefker, that anything that touches the ground, so hefker betin hefker, and therefore it's going to become patur from the maaserot. So therefore, that's what we just mentioned, the concept of hefker betin hefker. Says the Mishnah, this is halacha dalet, okay? Sorry, halacha gimel. Right? Sorry, I looked at the bottom of the page. Right? Halacha gimel. Yeah? So on the 15th of the month of Adar, Shulchanot Yoshvim Medinat. So the tables were at the Medina. They were sitting there. These are money changers. Right? That's why they're called Shulchan or Khalfan or all these different things. Right? Shulchani. Right? That was a famous word for it. Right? So during the 15th of Adar, they used to be all over the place. Once it was the 25th of Adar, they were by the Mikdash. So once they already started sitting in the Bet Mikdash area, then they started taking collaterals from the people there. Somebody still did not give them the shekel, the shekalim, so then they would take it away from them. And who would they take it away from them? So they would take it from Leviim, from Yisraelim, from Gerim, from converts, from slaves, which were freed, but not from women or slaves, avadim kananim, or from children. But any child that a person is going to start doing a mechatita shekel for him, even though he wasn't obligated to, he doesn't stop anymore. But we never take a mashkon from the kohanim because of the darkei shalom. That means even though also kohanim are obligated in mechatita shekel, but they wouldn't do it, right? The Gemara is going to explain why is it darkei shalom. Okay, fine, very good. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, right?Heid ben Bukhri biyavne. So ben Bukhri came and he testified in Yavne. Kol kohen sheshokel eno choteh. Yeah. Okay, we're just going to do. So it says over here that Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says that testify ben Bukhri in Yavne that any kohen that is shokel machzita shekel eno choteh, he's not going to. That means even though he's not chayav in doing it, he doesn't get a sin in doing it. Amar lo Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Loki, it's not true. Ela kol kohen sheno shokel choteh. If he doesn't take off machzita shekel, he's going to be a sinner. If a kohen does not give machzita shekel, ela shekonim dorshim mikra ze latzmam, but rather they come and they want to say this pasuk for themselves. It says in the pasuk, v'chol minchat kohen kalil tieh lo te'achel. Any type of a minchat kohen, it's going to be completely burned. It's not going to be eaten. Now it says, Hoy ve'omeru shtei alechem lechem hapanim shelanu. Since anyway the korban omer the shtei alechem, which is on Shavuot, and lechem hapanim, which is every single Shabbat, shelanu, it's going to be obligated for them. Hech nechalim. So then how is it going to be? That's considered also minchat kohen. So therefore they want to come and they want to say. So since the Torah comes and says that they are eaten, so Bal Korcham, it comes out because the Kohanim are not shutafim in the shekelim of the tzibur, which means like this. If right now it comes from the Kohen, you're not allowed to eat it. Why? Because if not, all the Kohanim are going to start fighting. 1 second, but if I'm bringing it, I should eat it. Yeah, but it's not my turn. It's his turn. So the Kohanim are going to be fighting. So any type of minchat Kohen, lo te'achel. But right, it has to be completely burned. Kalil tiyeh. So now 1 second. How is it that we eat, right? How is it that the Kohanim do eat from the Korban HaOmer, Shtei HaLechem and Lechem HaPanim? That comes from money of Korbanot Tzibur. So now if the Kohanim are participating in the Korban Tzibur, so therefore how do they eat it? So therefore they're not obligated. So therefore they're trying to learn from that pasuk that Keilu they're not obligated in Machatzit Shekel. Right? That's what the Gemara says. That the Mishnah is saying that they're learning the pasuk to their advantage that Keilu they're not obligated. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara. We're not going to ask the Ktanim for Machatzit Shekel. Halitvoa and Tovin, right? Halitvoa Tovin. Says, okay, fine, we're not going to take a collateral, but we do ask them for it. So says the Gemara, no, that's only if they already brought 2 pubic hairs. If he doesn't have 2 pubic hairs, la beda, it's not the bedin that you're going to ask it. Right? But you're not going to take a collateral until he has 20 years old. When he's 20 years old, then you take a collateral. But until there, from 2 pubic hairs, which is usually bar mitzvah time, until then, you're going to come but you're not going to take a collateral. Okay, you just ask it, but you're not going to take a collateral. So they learned in a Braita that they're not going to take from the Kohanim the collateral because of derech kavod. That's the darkei shalom. Okay, which means that it's not kavod. Because basically we have to give the Kohanim extra kavod, as is written in Mikidashto, which is a mitzvah d'oraita, to give them extra kavod. So therefore we're not going to start taking from them collaterals because it's not kavod. Fine. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, hey, this is the testimony. Amar Rav Berachia, Tamad, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the reason it was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, right, is because he says, Zeitenu. What does it mean, Zeitenu? The numerical value of the word Ze is Shnei Masar Shvatim Yitenu, which means that it's going to be the 12 tribes they're going to give. So you see that Shevet Levi is also considered one of the 12 tribes, so therefore they're obligated in the mitzvah of Machatzit Shekel. Rabbi Tavi b'Shem Rav Nuna, he says, Ken Meshivin Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda. That's what the Chachamim actually answer Rabbi Yehuda. Chatat Yachid Meta, En Chatat Tzibur Meta. If a Chatat Yachid dies, right, which means that what happens if you have a Chatat Yachid? They can't bring it because their owners died. So Meta, you have to kill the animal. You have to let it die. If you remember, you let it graze until it dies, right? You lock it up until it dies. En Chatat Tzibur Meta, but if it's going to be a Chatat Tzibur, you don't have to let it die. Minchat Yachid Kreva Kalil. The Minchat Yachid of a Kohen, it gets completely destroyed, right? It completely burnt. But Minchat Tzibur Kreva Kalil, but it doesn't, because that the Kohen takes part of it. So it's basically what the Gemara is trying to say here. If right now the Kohen has a chelek, because of giving the Machatzit Shekel b'Torah Nedava, so therefore it's considered a Minchat Yachid of a Kohen, well, you're not allowed to eat it. So therefore the Kohen is actually sinning in the fact that he's giving this Nedava, so that's why they don't want to give. Bekashia, so we're going to ask the following question. Adam, can you ask a person a question for something that he doesn't even agree with? Which means you can ask a person a question on something that he himself agrees with. But if you already know that he himself disagrees with that, you can start asking him a question from there, right? He says, "She'en chatat tzibur meta." You learned the Mishnah. En chatat tzibur meta. According to the Mishnah, chatat tzibur, which means that it never goes to die. Omer, so Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, "Tamut," that it does. So therefore, what are you trying to come and bring me proofs from chatat tzibur meta or not? Rabbi Yehuda himself doesn't agree with that. So you can't bring me a proof from that if he himself doesn't agree with it. So he asked the question, Zo lo nidvat yachid. It's not nidvat yachid. They're going to tell him, since it was given to the tzibur, it's like a nidvat tzibur. Which means that he's going to say that it's like a nidvat tzibur since it was given over to the tzibur and it wasn't something of an individual. Right? Ketiv, as it says in a pasuk, one of them says, anybody that's going to be over on the Yam Suf, they have to give Machatzit Shekel. So according to this, also Kohanim Levim, and he said, everyone has to give Machatzit Shekel. And Channa says, Kol davar pikudayu, anybody that was counted on the pikudim has to give the Machatzit Shekel. Manda amar kol davar b'yama yiten. So according to Manda, so that you also have to give it, because they pass through the Yam Suf. So Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, so that's proved to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. But the Manda amar that says kol davar pikudaya, that anyone is going to be over on the pikudim, yiten, right, that they're going to give him. That's a proof to Be'mrucha that Kohanim and Levim are going to be patur from Machatzit Shekel. Halacha Daled Mishnah. Even though we just said that you don't take collateral from women, slaves, or children, but if they do it on their own accord, you do accept it from them. Hanochri, a goy, vakuti, or a kuti, sheshaklu, that they are going to take the Machatzit Shekel in order to participate in the Korbanot Tzibur, you're not going to accept it from them. So the goy and the kuti, the nochri, you don't accept the nochri and the kuti, you don't accept it from them, right? But you do accept it from the women, children, and the slaves. You also don't accept from the nochri or the kutit, not any types of kinim. The kinim are the birds. So you're not going to accept the birds, not from kinei zavin for a zav, right? Which a man that has a seminal discharge, zavot, right? Kinei zavot for a woman that she has her discharge, right? Or kinei yoldot, or a woman that gives birth. Velo chatal v'shamot, or sin offerings or guilt offerings. This is a general rule. Kol shenidav nidav, anything which is going to be like a neder or nidava, which is a promise or a present, mekablim yadan, you're allowed to accept it from the goyim. Kol she'eno nidav nidav, but if it cannot be brought as a present, em mekablim yadan, we do not accept from them. That's also what we actually learned from Ezra, because the Kutim, you started sending things for the building the Bet HaMikdash. So he went and he said, Lo lachem v'lanu livnot bet Elokenu. It cannot be b'shutafut for you guys and ourselves to build, right, the Bait of Hashem. Rather, we have to build the Bet HaMikdash. So you see from here that the Nochlim and Kutim are not able to take a portion in the Binyan Bet HaMikdash or in the Bedek HaBayit. And Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we continue with the Mishnah.
But they can bring a korban.